We sent you a 4-link closer last spring and to put on your Kinsey. What series Kinsey planter do you have, Tim?
We have a 2600.
Okay.
1632.
Okay. Pivot around, or is it a...
it's a pivot.
Pivot round?
It's a pivot. Okay. It's a split row.
Okay. And are you running, what all are you running on your planter of some of our attachments?
So on your attachments on our planter, we're running the G2 fertilizer. We're also running the, I'm running Mohawk closing wheels in the front on my soybean units. I'm running zipper units on my corn rows.
Okay.
When we first started with you, we first started with the Mohawk closing wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you came out with the zipper wheels, we put those on our corn unit. And then we put the Mohawks on the soybean units up front.
Oh, okay. All right.
We also run, like I said, the G2 fertilizer unit. Mm-hmm. And then this year we tried your 4-link closer.
Okay. Yeah, on one row. Correct. And you saw a big difference there, and boy, that is really distinctive, I'll tell you.
That was huge. I wish I had 15 more units, just like it. You know what I mean? But
oh, no joke.
We couldn't believe the difference.
Wow.
And so that's why we took pictures and sent them over to you.
Yeah. What do you farm in what kind of soil types and stuff there in Illinois?
We have silty loam. We also have clay loam, and then also some sand. So we've got all variations of soil out here, out in Kankakee, Illinois.
Okay. Do you? What do you think of the Mohawk and zipper closing wheel in your planting conditions and things like sand and stuff? We get a lot of questions from farmers. Well, I need to take off the Mohawk or the zipper when I go to sandy ground or work ground versus no till or minimum till and heavy gumbo and stuff? Do you have any thoughts there?
We don't have any issues. Like I said, running in, and that's why we really like the zipper wheels, is because it runs in all conditions.
Yeah.
And like I said before, we really like your zippers because of the way it leaves the ground after we're done. Our mag levels are really high in our ground, and so if it rains 5 inches, our ground gets pretty tight real quick. And so with your zipper wheel, almost like fluffing the ground a little bit on top, it gives it that little bit of air pocket, you know what I mean, above. Your seed and soil contact is still, great, but it leaves it a little bit fluff on top so that it gives that, so when it does rain that 5 inches, it has that ability, not to compact.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. And that's a good point. We talked to a lot of people, and that zipper acts kind of like you zip your jacket shut to keep your seed trench shut in the heavy gumbo soils, or you zip your jacket shut so it doesn't break back open when you're out in the cold and stuff. And so that's what the zipper kind of does, and it kind of rototills that soil into the seed furrow. And breaks it up into small particles and then compacts it. And then with the angle of the zipper, it kind of releases that soil as it exits. So it's not like a straight fingered wheel that rooster tails soil up behind you.
No, that's correct. No, that's correct. And that's why one reason we really liked your zipper wheels when you came out with them.
Yeah.
When you came out with them, that's where we would run into trouble sometimes with the regular rubber wheel, is that once we would, compress the sidewall, and we'd have good soil to seed contact, but the minute we would get that 5-inch rain, the 3-inch rain, then we're going in rotary hoeing, we've got compacted soils, and it's just a mess. And so when you came out with the zipper wheel, that really interested us, for that one reason.
Yep, neat. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about, we talked you into putting one of those 4-link closers on and kind of explain, why do we see this big difference? What's your feeling there? And you were out, Ann Hyderson, you and your dad were out. Tell us about your dad asked you the question or something about those. Why do we see this difference here?
Well, the reason I feel we see that difference is that with your 4-link closing wheel, it's completely independent of my corn unit. So my corn unit and your 4-link closer is completely independent. So it's really just pulling that 4-link closer through the ground. And it has no determination if that row unit is sinking in the ground a little bit on fluffy, on regular dirt or even on wet gumbo. Whatever that corn or whatever your row unit is doing, your 4-link closer is completely independent. And so all you're doing is just pulling that through the ground. With a normal, cast iron or a stamped closing wheel attachment, that is almost like a lever that's against that corn row unit. So if that corn row unit is sinking in the ground, you're going to put a lot more spring pressure on that closing wheel, creating more compaction, for that seed corn.
Yeah. And that's what we're finding. We're finding a lot of guys that put the 4-link closer on are able to travel through the field a little faster, plant a little faster. They're not getting bounce in that row units because we've got a second parallel linkage on that planter, and all the front parallel linkage has to do is control the depth of the planter units, and in the closing mechanism is totally separate from it. So then it can bounce over root balls or clods and stuff out there and not affect the front row units on it.
And that's also what we really like about your G2 fertilizer attachment with the walking beam. My zippers aren't right, across from each other. They're actually spread. And with that, it allows the root balls for the guys in no-till, and also in our ground, we're vertical till. And so we've got root balls, we've got rocks, and it gives it a little more of a pathway through that so that we're not blocking up that, with a rubber tire or with normal closing wheels. You don't lock in with a corn ball or with a rocks.
Yeah.
And so we just really like the G2 fertilizer attachment with the walking beam to just allow more trash through our row units.
Yeah, neat. You bet. Yeah, you used to run liquid fertilizer discs out front. Did you ever?
We ran the Kinsey's double disc openers up front, and they were attached. And so when we were 2 plus 2, 2 inches over and 2 inches down. And what would happen with those double disc openers with our vertical till, we were always going a little hair too soon, and we would bring up that cheese, and that cheese would indefinitely get right over that corn row. And my father and us and me hated that. So when you came out with the G2 fertilizer attachment, it's already behind, the corn's already in the ground. It has nothing to do with your corn unit. If you're running a John Deere, Kinsey, Case International, everything is behind the row unit.
Yep.
So that corn's already in the ground, it's already enclosed, and now all of a sudden, now you just gotta, place that fertilizer where it needs to be.
Yep, neat. Yeah. You're planning on picking up the other 15 rows of 4-link closers for next year?
That is correct.
You're a Beck's dealer, seed dealer? Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, Beck's run a PFR, which is Practical Farm Research.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that Practical Farm Research, and we've been doing it for years, is we tested the 4-link closer in Practical Farm Research and found just huge advantages of running the 4-link closer.
Neat. Great. That's good. Yeah, we're finding many farmers. A lot of farmers now are not having to purchase high dollar down pressure systems for their planters, they can buy a $500-600 unit here and do basically the same job, because whenever you put that double parallel linkage on that planter, you can actually decrease the pressure on your bar and on your front parallel linkage on the planter. Plus, you can decrease the pressure on your closing system, because you're not having one parallel linkage do both jobs of closing the seed furrow as well as opening and placing seeds in the furrow. So
correct. With our Kinsey planter, we've got spring down and air up. So we run the air system from Precision, but it runs, it's spring down and air up.
Okay.
And so with that, like I said, it's a completely individual unit, compared to the 4-link closer. And like I said, that's one thing we really enjoy about your system. Number one, it's easy to put on. And number two, it's completely, free of whatever is going on up front.
Yeah.
So if your planter, is lower, or if it's in soft ground and that planter goes down a little bit, or you're in mud or whatever, like I said, that 4-link closer is completely independent.
Yep.
And that's something we really enjoy.
Neat. Well, those pictures, when you sent me those in mid-December there on those 2 rows, that you had it on an end row on the planter.
Correct.
And when you went back through the field, you had 2 rows right together. I mean, that's distinct. Oh man, that is.
When we planted that field and it was wet. Yep. And so, of course, because of the wonderful weather we had this spring, we were planting in wet ground. And so what was going on is that planter was actually sinking in the mud a little bit, okay? And with the rest of my row units, they were actually, with my planter being kind of in the mud a little bit, created more spring pressure and more compaction on those rows. But with yours being independent, those rows came right up.
Hey.
And like I was telling a different Schaffert dealer just this morning, is that whatever I sell on our farm, I use on our farm.
Okay.
And that's what I told him, is that whatever I use on our farm, and if it works, that's what we're selling, and that's what we're using on our farm.
Nate.
So that it's, so you're just not selling a product, you're using a product.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really appreciate you, is that number one, you're a family operated company. If you want to talk to the owner, you can. If you got issues with it, or if, whatever is going on, the owner of the company, which is you, sir, make it right.
Yep.
And that's why we deal with you. We deal with Bex, because we like family-owned companies.
Nate.
We like to talk and see the owner of the company. And we really appreciate all the R&D research that you guys do before you bring out this product. It's just not bringing out a product and trying to sell it, which we have bought many, many times. Attachments for our sprayer, attachments for our planter, attachments for a lot of different things where they just didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about you. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you guys too, because we learn from you folks, when something isn't working right, we learn from that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're out here trying to help, and if we can, if you can share things with us and we can share things with you, we appreciate, that kind of commitment that you guys give to us too. And we really appreciate you guys.
No,
and
right.
We appreciate the comments.
Well, and we really appreciate you. And I'm going to have to correct you. You just don't try, you do. And like I said before, I wish I had 15 more of those. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Because we just could not believe the difference.
Yeah.
And
no joke.
And one thing about it is that when these planters came out in 1930 and 1950, in a normal year, this planter will do the job.
Yeah.
Any planter will do the job. The problem now is that we never have a normal year.
Yeah.
Wherever in the world, there is some adversity that we've got to overcome. And like I said, with the 4-link closer, with the G2 walking beam, that takes over that adversity that you will, sooner or later, will entail.
Yeah. When my son first designed that 4-link closer, I was kind of skeptical, but after seeing it run, it quietens down the planter unit so that it isn't bouncing through the field like it used to and things, and it just it makes sense. And these planters, when they were designed back in the early 70s, we were farming different back then. We were farming, we were plowing the ground, we were disking, everything had to be clean tilled, and those planters weren't great in that. But now we're doing different things, and that's why there's a lot of companies out there building attachments because something wasn't working right on the planter. And this 4-link closer it's really kicking out and taking off now. And farmers are finding out that, hey, I like that double disc, your double parallel linkage on those planters.
Correct. So no, I really like you said, the parallel linkage. It makes it's totally now individual of whatever, like I said, the corn unit is doing. So that corn unit could be bouncing up and down, or it's trying to do whatever it's trying to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like with that 4-link closer being independent, it also, then your depth control also, I think, is dead nuts on. Yeah. And we're all concerned about depth. Yeah. And when that closing wheel and you got that big heavy spring in there, and that thing is riding up and down, I think it varies your depth also. Oh, yeah. And so I think, like you said, with making that 4-link closer and independent, your depth on your corn is also more accurate, I believe.
Well, and another thing, a lot of guys, or I've done the same thing behind our planter. You'll go back there and you're in a heavy gumbo area in the field, and you go back there and you see that seed bead gate open. What's the first thing you do? You crank down the pressure on the press wheels, and then all you're doing is putting up pressure on the row unit. So you need more pressure on the bar and more down pressure on your parallel linkage up front in order to keep it in the ground. And we're going against each other. But when you take and put that parallel linkage up there, separate from this parallel linkage back there, they're both doing their thing. They can do, what they need to do and do it
Well, they're doing the job they're meant to do. Yeah. Because one does not interact with the other. Yep. It's a completely almost separate unit that you're pulling through the field. Yep. And like you said, it's completely independent, but still does the job that it needs to do or designed to do.
Yep.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Thank you. We really appreciate you guys out there and the stuff you guys do. And I really appreciate these pictures. Man, that is, you could talk to somebody all day long, and by seeing this and visually, my gosh, there is a big difference. And
it's all about compaction. Yeah. What those pictures are showing you is that with your row unit being completely individual and completely separate, that doesn't determine what your corn planter is doing. Those pictures are compaction. That's that's what that is. Yep. Because the rest of my planter is all zippers. They're all got the G2 fertilizer with the walking beam on it. The only difference is the 4-link closer.
Wow, man, that is distinct. I mean, it's day and night difference. And
correct. Correct. And it was all because I had adversity conditions.
Yeah.
And when I planted, and your 4-link closer overcame those adverse conditions, is when farmers get into those tight spots, we get squeezed into time, and we've got to, unfortunately, work through those adverse conditions. That 4-link closer does the job.
Neat. Boy, that's super. And a lot of times, you're out there, and like you said, in adverse conditions, and you don't know when those conditions are going to be there. One year, it's like my dad used to always say, a thief never travels the same road twice. And, and you don't dare plant the same way twice in a year, or 1 year from the next, because it totally could be different.
Well, and especially this year, if I would have waited until the most ideal conditions with the ideal, ground temperature and soil conditions, I would have never planted this year. Yeah. Never. I would have not had one kernel in the ground this year.
Did you have pretty good yields?
We had anywhere from 210 to 185.
Neat. Yeah, which isn't bad. What's your normal average?
We were definitely pleased at the yields we had this year. Yeah. And so we had great yields this year. The corn was wet this year.
Yeah.
Because we started in April and I didn't get done until June 4th. So.
Okay. All right. So yeah. And normally, what do? You're done by what? First part of May or mid-May?
Yeah, usually mid-May. Usually we'll put the corn in starting end of April, in 2 weeks, April, May, and then we'll start beans. And then usually by the third, fourth week in May, then we're about done.
Okay. Yep. Neat. Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. We appreciate you and keep up the good work. And like you said, we really appreciate you and your company, and then, and standing behind your products. Yep. That's one thing we really appreciate also.
Thank you.